It was a quiet Friday night in a small town called Cedar Ridge. The streets were empty, and the only sounds you could hear were the occasional cars passing by or the hum of streetlights flickering in the cool breeze. Most people had already gone, home to relax after a long week. But not her. She wasn't done yet. Maya Johnson, a 32-year-old woman with an athletic build and sharp eyes that seemed to notice everything, pulled into the local gas station. She needed to fill up her tank before heading back home. It was something she did almost every week without giving it much thought. Dressed casually in jeans and a hoodie, she looked like any other person stopping for fuel on their way home. She stepped out of her car, stretching her arms slightly as she walked toward the pump. Her mind wandered as she started filling up the tank. Maybe she'd grab a bottle of water from the convenience store inside before leaving. Nothing about this moment felt unusual. To her, it was just another routine stop. But sometimes, life throws curveballs when you least expect them. Unbeknownst to Maya, trouble was lurking nearby. Around the corner of the gas station, behind the shadows cast by the dim lights, 5 men loitered near the back of the convenience store. These weren't ordinary guys hanging out late. They were part of a gang known for targeting vulnerable people who stopped at the station after dark. They'd been watching the place for weeks, waiting for easy prey, and tonight they thought they'd found it. When they saw Maya step out of her car, they exchanged knowing glances. A lone black woman, dressed casually, looking like someone who wouldn't put up much of a fight. Perfect. Or so they thought. One of the men broke away from the group, swaggering over to where Maya stood next to her car. He had a smirk plastered across his face, clearly enjoying the power he believed. He held over her. His friend stayed close enough to watch, but far enough to avoid drawing attention, at least for now. "Hey there," he said, his tone mocking as he approached her. "Why don't you hand over your purse and make this easy on yourself?" For a brief second, Maya froze, not because she was scared, but because she couldn't believe what was happening. Did these men really think they could intimidate her? That she'd just roll over and give them what they wanted? She quickly realized this wasn't just some random act of aggression. It was deeper than that. This was about more than stealing a wallet. It was about targeting someone based on assumptions about her race, her gender, and how weak they thought she might be. Her mind raced. She knew she had options. She could try to reason with them, though experience told her that probably wouldn't work. She could run, but that would leave her car, and possibly others, at risk. Or she could stand her ground. As the man reached for her arm, his grip clumsy but firm, Maya made her decision. Enough was enough. She wasn't going to let anyone push her around, especially not cowards hiding behind numbers and bravado. Beneath her calm exterior lay years of discipline, training, and championship-level fighting skills. Skills she hadn't used outside the ring in ages, but skills that came flooding back to her in an instant. With lightning speed, Maya twisted her body, breaking free of his grasp while delivering a sharp elbow strike to his chest. The man stumbled, backward, clutching his stomach in shock. He hadn't expected resistance, let alone someone who could hit like that. "What the hell?" another voice shouted, and suddenly 2 more men rushed toward her, fists raised. Maya didn't waste time thinking. She slipped into a fighter's stance, her movements smooth and deliberate. Every step, every motion was calculated. For her, this wasn't just self-defense anymore, it was standing up against ignorance and prejudice. It was proving that no one gets to decide her worth or her strength. The first attacker lunged at her, swinging wildly. Maya sidestepped him effortlessly, using his momentum against him. With a quick pivot, she delivered a spinning kick that sent him sprawling onto the pavement. The second man hesitated for a split second, unsure of what he was dealing with now. By the time he charged forward, Maya was ready. A swift jab followed by a leg sweep dropped him to the ground too. The remaining 3 members of the gang exchanged nervous glances. Their confidence wavered as they watched their friends fall one by one. This wasn't supposed to happen. Women like her weren't supposed to fight back, especially not like this. But here she was, holding her own with precision and power. 1, of them tried grabbing her from behind, hoping to catch her off guard. Big mistake. In one fluid motion, Maya flipped him over her shoulder, sending him crashing to the asphalt. The sound echoed through the otherwise silent night. By now, sweat dripped down Maya's brow, but her focus remained razor-sharp. Adrenaline coursed through her veins, keeping her alert and energized. She hadn't fought like this in years, but muscle memory took over. Each punch, each kick carried the weight of years of practice and determination. And still, the gang refused to back down completely. One of them pulled out a knife, waving it threateningly. "You're gonna regret messing with us," he snarled, his voice trembling despite his attempt to sound tough. But Maya didn't flinch. If anything, the sight of the weapon sharpened her resolve. Years of competing in mixed martial arts tournaments had taught her how to stay calm under pressure. She exhaled slowly, preparing herself for whatever came next. This wasn't just about survival anymore. It was about proving a point. About showing these men exactly who they were dealing with. Little did they know they'd picked the wrong person to mess with that night. The man with the knife lunged forward, slashing wildly in Maya's direction. The blade glinted under the flickering gas station lights, but Maya didn't flinch. Years of training had drilled one thing into her mind: stay calm, stay focused. Panic was the enemy, not the knife. She watched his movements carefully, waiting for an opening. He swung again, this time aiming lower, trying to catch her off guard. But Maya was too quick. She stepped back just enough to avoid the blade, her feet moving lightly as if she were dancing. The man growled in frustration, stepping closer, thinking he had the upper hand. That's when Maya made her move. With a sharp twist of her body, she closed the distance between them faster than he could react. Her forearm shot out, blocking his wrist and pushing the knife away from her. Before he could recover, she grabbed his arm, twisting it with controlled force. The knife clattered to the ground, useless now. The man yelped in pain, his eyes wide with shock. He hadn't expected this, not from her. Maya didn't stop there. Using her momentum, she delivered a series of rapid punches to his midsection. Each strike precise and calculated. The man doubled over, gasping for air. Then, with a powerful roundhouse kick, she sent him stumbling backward until he crashed into a nearby trash can. The sound of metal scraping against concrete echoed through the quiet night. The remaining gang members stared at her, their confidence crumbling. They had started this night thinking they'd have an easy target, someone who wouldn't fight back. Instead, they found themselves facing someone who seemed unstoppable. One by one, they began to realize they'd made a huge mistake. The last two men exchanged uneasy glances. Fear crept into their expressions, replacing the smugness they'd worn earlier. One of them muttered something under his breath, his voice trembling. "This chick, she's crazy." But Maya wasn't listening. She stood tall, her chest rising and falling as she caught her breath. Her eyes locked onto the last man standing, daring him to make a move. For a moment he hesitated, torn between pride and self-preservation. Finally he raised his hands in surrender, his voice shaky. "Please," he stammered. "Don't hurt me." Maya didn't respond right away. She simply glared at him, her expression unreadable. After what felt like an eternity, she finally spoke, her voice low and commanding. "Get out of here," she said, pointing toward the street. Without needing to be told twice, the man turned and ran, leaving his friends behind. As the dust settled, Maya took a step back, surveying the scene. The parking lot was a mess. Men groaning on the ground, scattered debris, and the faint smell of gasoline lingering in the air. Her heart was still racing, but she felt a strange sense of calm wash over her. She had done what she needed to do, not because she wanted to hurt anyone, but because she had no other choice. It wasn't long before the distant wail of police sirens broke the silence. Someone must have called 911 after witnessing the commotion. Blue and red lights flashed as patrol cars pulled into the gas station, officers spilling out to assess the situation. One of them approached Maya cautiously, his hand resting on his holster. "Ma'am, are you okay?" he asked, his voice calm but firm. Maya nodded, brushing a strand of hair out of her face. "I'm fine," she replied, her voice steady despite the adrenaline still coursing through her veins. "These guys tried to rob me." The officer glanced at the men lying on the ground, some clutching injuries while others struggled to get up. His eyes widened slightly as he turned back to Maya. "Did you do all this by yourself?" She hesitated for a moment, then nodded again. "Yeah, I did." The officer shook his head in disbelief, muttering something under his breath. "You're either very brave or very foolish," he said, though there was a hint of admiration in his tone. "What's your story?" Maya shrugged, as if fighting off 5 attackers was no big deal. "I'm an MMA champion," she explained simply. "These guys picked the wrong person to mess with tonight." The officer chuckled softly, shaking his head again. "Well, I'll say this, you certainly know how to handle yourself." He gestured for his colleagues to start rounding up the injured men, who were already being handcuffed and loaded into patrol cars. As the chaos unfolded around her, Maya couldn't help but feel a mix of emotions: relief, anger, pride. They all swirled together in her mind. Relief that it was over, anger at the audacity of these men to target her, and pride in knowing she'd stood her ground. But she also knew this wasn't just about her. It was about every woman, every minority, every person who had ever been underestimated because of how they looked or where they came from. Word of the incident spread quickly. By morning, the story was everywhere, on social media, local news, outlets, even talk shows. People couldn't stop talking about the black woman who had single-handedly taken down a gang of would-be robbers. Some praised her bravery, calling her a real-life superhero. Others criticized her decision not to call for help immediately, questioning whether she should have fought back at all. But Maya didn't pay much attention to the noise. She knew the truth, that sometimes standing up for yourself meant taking matters into your own hands. Growing up as a black woman in America, she had faced her share of challenges and prejudices. That night at the gas station wasn't just about defending herself physically. It was about challenging the stereotypes and assumptions people made about her based on her race and gender. In the days that followed, Maya became an unexpected symbol of resilience and empowerment. Local community leaders reached out, inviting her to speak at events and share her story. At first, she hesitated. Public speaking wasn't exactly her forte. But the more she thought about it, the more she realized she had a responsibility to use her platform to inspire others. When she finally agreed to speak, her words resonated deeply with those who heard her. She talked about the importance of self-defense, not just as a physical skill, but as a mindset rooted in confidence and awareness. She encouraged people to trust themselves, to believe in their ability to overcome adversity no matter how daunting it seemed. Her message struck a chord, especially among women and minorities who often felt marginalized or underestimated. Many saw themselves in her story, a reminder that strength comes in many forms and that courage isn't the absence of fear, but the willingness to act despite it. Inspired by the response, Maya decided to take things a step further. She opened a self-defense program aimed at teaching practical combat techniques to underserved communities. The classes weren't just about learning how to throw a punch or block a kick. They were about building confidence, fostering resilience, and empowering people to protect themselves in dangerous situations. For Maya, it wasn't just about teaching people how to fight. It was about giving them tools to navigate a world that often tried to hold them back. She wanted everyone to know that they had the power to stand up for themselves, just like she had done that night at the gas station. Looking back, Maya realized that the encounter had changed her in ways she hadn't anticipated. It wasn't just a test of her physical abilities. It was a defining moment that reinforced everything she believed in. It reminded her of the importance of standing firm in the face of injustice, of refusing to let anyone define her worth or limit her potential. And so Maya's legacy grew, not just as an MMA champion, but as a beacon of hope and empowerment for countless individuals inspired by her unyielding spirit. Her story became a testament to the fact that true strength isn't just about physical prowess. It's about having the courage to challenge the status quo and prove that no one gets to decide your value except you. The night at the gas station stayed with Maya long after the police had left and the last patrol car disappeared into the distance. She drove home in silence, replaying everything in her mind. The way the gang had approached her, their smug grins turning to shock, and finally the look of fear when they realized they'd bitten off more than they could chew. It wasn't just a random event for her. It felt like a moment that revealed something deeper about who she was and what she stood for. When she got home, Maya didn't tell anyone about what happened. Not right away. How do you even start a story like that? Hey, so I fought off 5 guys tonight. It sounded almost unbelievable even to her. Instead, she went through her usual routine, locking the door behind her, taking off her shoes, and sitting on the couch to decompress. But no matter how hard she tried to distract herself, flipping through TV channels or scrolling on her phone, the memory of the night kept creeping back. By morning, the story was everywhere. News outlets had picked up on the incident, sharing details of how a woman single-handedly took down a group of attackers. Social media exploded with reactions. Some people praised her bravery, calling her a hero. Others criticized her decision to fight instead of calling for help. A few comments even suggested she should have handed over her purse and avoided conflict altogether. Maya scrolled through the posts, feeling a mix of emotions. On one hand, she appreciated the support from strangers who saw her actions as courageous. On the other hand, some comments stung. People who hadn't been there, who didn't know what it felt like to face danger head-on, were quick to judge. They talked about de-escalation and avoiding violence as if those options were always available, but Maya knew better. In that moment, surrounded by men who thought they could intimidate her, walking away wasn't an option. Fighting back wasn't just about protecting herself. It was about proving that she wouldn't be defined by their assumptions. As the days passed, the attention only grew. Local news stations started reaching out asking for interviews. Community leaders invited her to speak at events. At first, Maya hesitated. She wasn't used to being in the spotlight, and the idea of talking about such a personal experience made her uncomfortable. But then she thought about why this mattered, not just for her but for others who might feel voiceless or powerless. One evening, while sitting alone in her living room, Maya decided to accept an invitation to speak at a community forum. The event was organized by a local nonprofit focused on empowering women and minorities. When she walked onto the stage that night, the room fell silent. People leaned forward in their seats, eager to hear her story. "I'm not here to glorify violence," Maya began, her voice steady but warm. "I don't want anyone to think fighting is the answer every time, but sometimes standing up for yourself means doing whatever it takes to protect your dignity and your life." She went on to describe the encounter at the gas station, not sparing any details. She talked about the way the gang had underestimated her, assuming she'd be an easy target because of her race and gender. She explained how years of martial arts training and competing in MMA tournaments had prepared her for moments like this, not just physically but mentally. And she emphasized that true strength isn't just about throwing punches, it's about believing in yourself enough to take action when it matters most. The audience listened intently, hanging on her every word. When she finished speaking, the room erupted in applause. People lined up afterward to thank her, sharing their own stories of feeling underestimated or dismissed. One woman told Maya she had been too afraid to walk alone at night since moving to the area, but hearing her story gave her hope. Another man said he admired her courage and wished he'd had the confidence to stand up to bullies during his teenage years. Inspired by the response, Maya realized she had an opportunity to make a difference beyond just telling her story. She began brainstorming ways to use her platform to help others feel safer and more empowered. Within weeks, she launched a self-defense program aimed at teaching practical skills to underserved communities. The classes weren't just about learning how to throw a punch or block a kick. They were about building confidence and resilience. At the first session, a diverse group of participants showed up, young and old, men and women, people from all walks of life. Maya greeted each person warmly, making sure everyone felt welcome. Then she led them through basic drills, showing them how to use their bodies effectively in high-pressure situations. Between exercises, she shared tips on staying aware of their surroundings and trusting their instincts. What surprised Maya most was how much she enjoyed teaching. Watching her students grow more confident with each class filled her with a sense of purpose she hadn't felt in years. Many of them thanked her afterward, saying they felt stronger, not just physically, but emotionally. Some even joked that they hoped they'd never have to use what they'd learned, but knowing they could defend themselves gave them peace of mind. Word of Maya's program spread quickly, and soon she was getting requests to expand it to other neighborhoods. Local businesses offered to sponsor free sessions, and volunteers stepped forward to help organize events. What had started as a small initiative became a movement, inspiring people across the city to take charge of their safety and well-being. Through it all, Maya remained humble. She didn't see herself as a hero or a role model, just someone who wanted to make a difference, but others saw her differently. To many, she represented resilience, courage, and the power to challenge stereotypes. Her story reminded them that strength comes in many forms and that no one gets to decide their worth except themselves. Looking back, Maya realized the gas station incident had changed her in profound ways. It wasn't just about surviving an attack, it was about embracing her identity and using her experiences to uplift others. She had always known she was strong, but now she understood the impact that strength could have when shared with the world. And so, Maya continued to teach, inspire, and empower. And her journey wasn't without challenges, but every obstacle only fueled her determination to keep going. For her, it wasn't just about self-defense anymore. It was about creating a legacy of resilience and hope. A legacy that proved anyone, no matter where they came from or what they looked like, could rise above adversity and become a force for good. The self-defense program that Maya started quickly became more than just a series of classes. It turned into a movement. People from all over the city began showing up, eager to learn not only how to protect themselves physically, but also how to carry themselves with confidence. For many, it was their first time stepping into a space where they felt empowered to take control of their safety. Maya noticed something remarkable about her students. No matter their background or age, everyone shared a common desire to feel stronger and more capable. Each class had its own energy, and Maya loved watching her students grow. At first, some were hesitant, nervous about throwing a punch or unsure if they'd ever need these skills in real life. But as the weeks went by, they transformed. One woman in her 50s, who admitted she'd never stood up for herself before, learned how to break free from a grab and deliver a solid strike. A teenage boy who struggled with bullying at school practiced assertive body language and verbal de-escalation techniques. Even older men joined in, saying they wanted to be better prepared to protect their families. Maya didn't just teach physical moves, she emphasized mental toughness too. "It's not always about fighting back," she would say during lessons. "Sometimes it's about recognizing danger early, trusting your gut, and knowing when to walk away. Confidence is your best weapon." Her approach resonated deeply with her students. They weren't just learning how to defend themselves, they were learning how to stand tall in everyday life. Many told her they felt braver after attending the classes, whether it was speaking up at work, setting boundaries in relationships, or simply walking home alone without fear. But running the program wasn't easy. Maya faced challenges along the way. Some people doubted her methods, questioning whether teaching self-defense could really make a difference. Others criticized her for encouraging aggression, even though her message was rooted in empowerment, not violence. There were days when she felt overwhelmed, juggling long hours between teaching, organizing events, and managing logistics. Still, every time she saw the look of pride on a student's face after mastering a new technique, she knew it was worth it. One evening, as Maya wrapped up a particularly intense session, a young girl approached her. She couldn't have been older than 12, clutching a notebook tightly against her chest. Her voice trembled as she spoke. "I want to thank you," she said softly. "I've been scared to go outside because kids at school pick on me. But today, I think I can handle it." Maya knelt down to meet the girl's eyes, giving her a warm smile. "You're already handling it," she replied gently. "Just by being here, you've taken the first step. Remember, strength isn't just about what you do, it's about believing in yourself." The girl nodded, her expression brightening, slightly before she ran off to join her mom waiting nearby. Moments like these reminded Maya why she kept going. It wasn't just about teaching punches and kicks. It was about planting seeds of confidence that could grow into something much bigger. As the program gained traction, Maya decided to expand its reach. She partnered with local schools, community centers, and even businesses to offer workshops tailored to different groups. For teens, she focused on anti-bullying strategies and building self-esteem. For seniors, she taught simple yet effective ways to stay safe in public spaces. And for women, she created sessions specifically addressing issues like street harassment and domestic abuse prevention. One of the most impactful partnerships came when a nonprofit organization working with survivors of violence reached out. They asked Maya to lead a special series of classes designed to help women reclaim their power after traumatic experiences. At first, Maya hesitated. Teaching self-defense was one thing, but helping someone heal emotionally required a level of sensitivity she wasn't sure she was ready for. After some thought, however, she agreed, realizing this was an opportunity to create meaningful change. The sessions with the survivors were different from anything Maya had done before. The atmosphere was quieter, more reflective. Many participants arrived skeptical, unsure if they belonged there or if they could ever feel strong again. Maya made it clear from the start that the goal wasn't perfection. It was progress. "We're not here to turn anyone into fighters overnight," she told them. "We're here to remind you that you are stronger than you think." Over time, the transformation among the women was undeniable. One participant, a mother of 3 who had escaped an abusive relationship, shared how the classes gave her a renewed sense of independence. "For so long, I felt like my body wasn't mine anymore," she said during a group discussion. "But now I feel like I'm taking it back. Every kick, every block, it's like I'm telling myself, you can do this." Hearing stories like these reinforced Maya's belief in the importance of what she was doing. It wasn't just about teaching skills, it was about healing, rebuilding, and empowering. Each person who walked through her doors carried their own struggles, but together, they formed a community united by resilience. Despite the positive impact, Maya knew there was still work to be done. Violence and prejudice weren't problems that could be solved overnight, and she understood that her efforts were just one piece of a much larger puzzle. But she refused to let that discourage her. Instead, she used it as motivation to keep pushing forward, to keep finding new ways, to inspire others. Her journey wasn't without personal sacrifices. Long hours spent organizing and teaching meant less time for herself, and sometimes she felt the weight of responsibility pressing down on her shoulders. Yet, whenever she felt overwhelmed, she reminded herself of the faces of her students, their smiles, their determination, their gratitude. Those moments fueled her passion and reminded her why she started this in the first place. By the end of the year, Maya's program had touched countless lives. What began as a single act of defiance at a gas station had grown into something far greater, a testament to the power of courage, resilience, and community. People looked at Maya not just as an MMA champion or a skilled fighter, but as someone who had dedicated her life to helping others rise above adversity. And while Maya never sought recognition for her efforts, she couldn't deny the profound effect they had on her own life. Through teaching others, she had rediscovered parts of herself she thought she'd lost. Her confidence, her purpose, her unwavering belief in the strength of the human spirit. In helping others find their power, she had found hers once again. For Maya, this was only the beginning. She knew there would always be more people to reach, more communities to uplift, and more barriers to break. But she also knew she wasn't alone. Together with her students and supporters by her side, she was determined to keep moving forward, one class, one story, one life at a time. As the months passed, Maya's self-defense program continued to grow, spreading its roots deeper into the community. What had started as a small initiative in a single neighborhood was now reaching people across the entire city, and even beyond. Local newspapers and TV stations began covering her work more frequently, highlighting not just her story, but the stories of those whose lives she had touched. The attention brought both opportunities and challenges, but Maya remained focused on her mission, helping others feel strong, safe, and empowered. One of the most memorable moments came when a group of high school students invited Maya to speak at their assembly. They were part of an after-school club dedicated to promoting equality and ending bullying. When Maya walked into the auditorium that morning, she was greeted by hundreds of teenagers sitting shoulder to shoulder, their eyes wide with curiosity. Some clapped politely as she took the stage, while others whispered among themselves, clearly intrigued by the woman who had taken down 5 attackers all by herself. Maya started her talk with a simple question. How many of you have ever felt like someone underestimated you? At first, only a few hands went up hesitantly, but as Maya scanned the room, encouraging nods from teachers prompted more students to raise their hands. By the end, nearly everyone had their arms in the air. That feeling, Maya said, pausing, for a fact is something I know very well. People often make assumptions about us based on how we look, where we come from, or what they think they know about us. Sometimes those assumptions can hurt. Other times, they can put us in danger. She went on to share her own experiences, not just the night at the gas station, but moments throughout her life when she'd been dismissed or underestimated because she was a Black woman. She talked about the frustration of having to prove herself over and over again, whether it was in school, at work, or even in the world of competitive fighting. Yet, instead of letting those moments break her, she used them as fuel to push harder, to show the world that she couldn't be defined by anyone else's expectations. When I stood my ground that night, Maya continued, it wasn't just about defending myself physically. It was about standing up against the stereotypes and prejudices that people tried to impose on me. And you know what? You don't need to be an MMA champion to do that. All you need is the belief that your voice matters, that your strength is real, and that no one gets to decide your worth except you. The students listened intently, hanging on her every word. Afterward, several approached her to thank her personally. One boy, tall and lanky with glasses that kept sliding down his nose, admitted he'd always been teased for being quiet and awkward. I never thought I could stand up to bullies, he confessed. But hearing you talk, it makes me feel like maybe I can. Another girl, wearing a hoodie pulled low over her face, shyly asked if Maya offered classes for kids her age. I want to learn how to protect myself, she said softly. But also, I want to feel brave. Maya smiled warmly, handing her a flyer for the next youth workshop. Bravery isn't about not being scared, she told her. It's about doing what you need to do, even when you are. Word of Maya's impact spread far beyond Cedar Ridge. A local filmmaker reached out, asking if she'd be willing to participate in a documentary about women breaking barriers in their communities. At first, Maya hesitated. Being filmed made her uncomfortable. It felt too much like stepping into the spotlight, something she'd always avoided. But then she realized this could be an opportunity to amplify her message, to reach people she might never meet otherwise, so she agreed. The filming process was eye-opening. Cameras followed Maya everywhere, from her early morning workouts to late-night planning sessions for upcoming workshops. They captured candid moments with her students, showing their progress and transformations. The filmmakers also interviewed some of the women Maya had worked with, including survivors of violence who credited her program with giving them a new lease on life. One of the most powerful scenes in the documentary featured a mother-daughter duo who attended Maya's classes. Together, the mother explained how she'd spent years living in fear after escaping an abusive relationship. I didn't think I'd ever feel safe again, she said, tears streaming down her face. But Maya taught me that safety isn't just about locking doors or avoiding certain places. It's about knowing you can handle whatever comes your way. Her teenage daughter chimed in, holding up her fists playfully. And now I can protect my mom too, she joked, earning laughter from everyone on set. Watching the two of them joke and spar lightly in front of the camera reminded Maya why she did what she did. It wasn't just about teaching skills. It was about rebuilding trust, fostering connection, and creating a sense of hope where there had once been none. When the documentary premiered at a local theater, the turnout was overwhelming. Hundreds, of people packed the seats, eager to see Maya's story unfold on screen. As the credits rolled and the lights came back on, the audience erupted into applause. Many stayed afterward to thank Maya personally, sharing how her journey had inspired them to take action in their own lives. But perhaps the most touching moment came when a young woman approached Maya, clutching a notebook filled with scribbled notes. "I've been thinking about starting my own project to help girls in my neighborhood," she said nervously. "Your story gave me the courage to believe I can actually do it." Maya hugged her tightly, feeling a surge of pride. "That's what it's all about," she replied. "You taking what you've learned and using it to lift others up. That's how change happens." Despite the success, Maya knew there was still so much more to do. While her program had reached thousands, she understood that true empowerment required systemic change, better education, stronger support networks, and safer environments for everyone. She began collaborating with activists, policymakers, and other organizations to address these larger issues. Together, they advocated for initiatives like improved street lighting in underserved areas, free self-defense training in public schools, and increased funding for domestic violence shelters. Maya also started hosting annual events called Strength in Solidarity, bringing together diverse groups of people to celebrate resilience and unity. These gatherings featured guest speakers, performances, and interactive workshops designed to inspire attendees to keep pushing forward despite challenges. Each year, the event grew bigger, drawing participants from neighboring cities and states. Through it all, Maya remained grounded. She didn't see herself as a hero, just someone doing her part to make the world a little better. Her humility endeared her to everyone she met, earning her respect and admiration from all walks of life. People looked to her not just as a role model, but as proof that ordinary individuals could achieve extraordinary things when they refused to give up. By the time the 5th anniversary of her gas station encounter rolled around, Maya's legacy was undeniable. She had transformed a moment of vulnerability into a lifetime of purpose, proving that strength isn't just about physical power. It's about heart, determination, and the willingness to stand up for what's right. And though she knew the fight for justice and equality was far from over, she faced the future with unwavering optimism. For Maya, this was more than just a chapter in her life. It was a calling, one that would continue to guide her, inspire others, and leave a lasting mark on the world. As the years rolled by, Maya's influence stretched far beyond what she could have imagined. Her self-defense program wasn't just a local initiative anymore. It had become a movement that inspired people across the country. News of her work reached cities hundreds of miles away, sparking conversations about empowerment, resilience, and the importance of standing up for oneself. People from all walks of life, students, parents, activists, educators, looked to Maya as a beacon of hope in a world that often felt overwhelming. One day, while organizing materials for an upcoming workshop, Maya received an email that stopped her in her tracks. It was from a national organization dedicated to supporting women and minorities. They wanted to honor her with an award for community leadership at their annual gala. At first, Maya laughed it off, thinking they must have made a mistake. "Me? An award?" she muttered to herself, shaking her head. But when she read the letter again, she realized they weren't joking. The nomination came with glowing testimonials from former students and community leaders who credited her with changing their lives. The night of the gala arrived, and Maya found herself walking into a grand ballroom filled with elegant chandeliers, soft music, and tables adorned with white linens. She tugged nervously at the hem of her dress, feeling out of place among the polished crowd. Most of the attendees were wearing designer suits or gowns, sipping champagne and chatting animatedly. Maya, on the other hand, felt like the same woman who had stood alone at that gas station years ago, just a regular person trying to make a difference. When her name was called during the ceremony, the room erupted into applause. Maya stepped onto the stage, blinking under the bright lights as she accepted the award. Her hands trembled slightly as she gripped the microphone, but her voice was steady when she began to speak. "I never thought I'd be standing here today," she admitted, glancing around the room. When I started teaching self-defense classes, my goal wasn't recognition. It was simply to help others feel safe and strong. If anything, this award belongs to the thousands of people who showed up to learn, who trusted me enough to take that first step toward empowerment. She paused, letting her words sink in before continuing. We live in a world where so many of us are underestimated because of how we look, where we come from, or what society expects of us. But let me tell you something. Strength isn't defined by anyone else's standards. It's about believing in yourself even when no one else does. It's about saying, I am worth protecting, and meaning it. The audience erupted into cheers, some people rising to their feet to give her a standing ovation. As Maya returned to her seat, she noticed tears streaming down the faces of several attendees. One woman leaned over to thank her, whispering, "You've given me courage I didn't know I had." In that moment, Maya felt a deep sense of fulfillment, not because of the trophy in her hand, but because of the ripple effect her work had created. Back home, Maya continued expanding her efforts. She partnered with schools to introduce anti-bullying programs, worked with businesses to create safer workplace environments, and collaborated with law enforcement agencies to train officers in de-escalation techniques. Her workshops evolved, too, incorporating not just physical skills, but also lessons on mental health, conflict resolution, and advocacy. She wanted her students to leave each session not only knowing how to defend themselves, but also understanding how to navigate challenges with grace and confidence. One of the most rewarding projects Maya launched was a mentorship program for young girls. Many of them came from tough backgrounds. Some had witnessed violence in their homes, while others struggled with insecurities fostered by societal pressures. Through weekly sessions, Maya taught them not only self-defense moves, but also the value of self-worth. She encouraged them to dream big, to believe in their potential, and to support one another. During one session, a shy teenager named Lisa approached Maya after class. Her voice barely above a whisper, she confessed, "I used to think I wasn't good enough for anything. But now, I feel like I can do whatever I set my mind to." Maya smiled, placing a hand on her shoulder. "That's exactly how you're supposed to feel," she replied. "You're stronger than you realize, Lisa. Don't ever forget that." Despite her growing success, Maya faced setbacks along the way. There were days when funding fell short, forcing her to cancel classes or scale back initiatives. Some critics dismissed her methods, claiming self-defense couldn't solve systemic issues like racism or sexism. Others accused her of glorifying violence, though anyone familiar with her teachings knew her focus was always on prevention and empowerment rather than aggression. Through it all, Maya remained steadfast. She reminded herself why she started this journey, to prove that everyone deserves to feel safe and valued. When times got tough, she leaned on her students, drawing strength from their progress and determination. Their stories kept her going, reminding her that every small victory mattered. One particularly challenging period came when a close friend questioned whether Maya was sacrificing too much of herself for the cause. "You're pouring your heart into this," her friend said one evening over coffee. "But who's taking care of you?" Maya sighed, stirring her cup absent-mindedly. "I know I need to slow down sometimes," she admitted. "But every time I think about stopping, I remember the faces of the people I've helped, the smiles, the hugs, the thank yous. How can I stop when there's still so much work to be done?" Her friend nodded thoughtfully. "Just promise me you'll take care of yourself too. You can't pour from an empty cup." It was advice Maya took to heart. Over the next few months, she made a conscious effort to carve out time for herself. Whether it was practicing yoga, spending quiet evenings reading, or reconnecting with old friends, balancing her personal needs with her mission became a priority, allowing her to approach her work with renewed energy and clarity. Years later, Maya reflected on how far she'd come since that fateful night at the gas station. What had started as a single act of defiance had grown into a lifelong commitment to empowering others. Her story served as proof that moments of adversity could transform into opportunities for growth, if you were willing to embrace them. She often thought about the gang members who had targeted her that night. While she harbored no hatred toward them, she hoped they had learned something from the experience, that underestimating someone based on appearances could lead to unexpected consequences. More importantly, she hoped they had found a way to turn their lives around. For Maya, the true measure of success wasn't fame or accolades. It was seeing the impact of her work reflected in the lives of others. Whether it was a young girl finding her voice, a mother reclaiming her independence, or a senior citizen walking home without fear, each transformation reminded her why she kept pushing forward. Looking ahead, Maya dreamed of taking her program global. She envisioned partnerships with international organizations, training instructors in underserved communities, and creating resources accessible to anyone with an internet connection. The possibilities seemed endless, and though the road ahead would undoubtedly be challenging, she faced it with unwavering optimism. As she stood outside her dojo one evening, watching the sunset paint the sky in hues of orange and pink, Maya felt a profound sense of gratitude. Gratitude for the struggles that had shaped her, for the people who had supported her, and for the countless lives she had touched, and those yet to come. Her journey hadn't been easy, but it had been worth it. For Maya, this wasn't just a story about survival or resilience. It was a testament to the power of courage, compassion, and the unshakable belief that everyone has the strength to rise above adversity. And as long as there were people willing to fight for justice and equality, Maya knew the world would keep moving in the right direction, one empowered individual at a time.